Thank you. I just want to also thank you folks for being in here. This is the last time I'm actually doing this presentation. I'm kind of morphed it into something else, so feel honored. You're a part of it, so enjoy. Yeah. Thank you. So welcome to Make STEM Great Again. This was a presentation created by Chris Sistrunk and myself while last year, while we were in the heat of all of the different presidential candidates. We thought it would be a fun theme now that the election is over. This will be the last time I'm ever delivering this presentation. So here's a quick intro slide. If you don't know me, my name's Dave Schwartzberg. I also go by Heal with Hands, or Heal for short. Goes back to my childhood, that name. We'll have that conversation later if you want to know a little bit more about its derivation. But on Twitter, at D Schwartzberg. I also work for Mobile Iron, manager of security and privacy, which is a lot of fun. Mobile Iron, probably one of my most favorite positions I've had so far throughout my career. I'm also one of the founders and the president of Hack for Kids, which, if you haven't heard about Hack for Kids, it is an organization dedicated to helping youths understand cybersecurity, best practices, as well as introducing them to IT and security, and make sure that they're safe and kind of help fill some of that gap that we have in employment. I don't know if you guys know who Chris Sistrunk is. He's a big ICS SCADA guy. He and I, chatting in a chat group, kind of came up with this idea, and he's a consultant over at FireEye. And he's out of Jackson, Mississippi, where he's the organizer for B-Sides Jackson. So we felt that being like election-oriented kind of talk, we should have a platform to speak on. So my platform is that no child's email is left behind. Give them their own server. Why not? It worked for somebody else. And for Chris, he said, and it's supposed to be in his best Trump voice, or actually Bill Clinton voice, we're going to build them a firewall, and IT is going to pay for it. Make SCADA great again. So that's pretty much fun intro. A little bit more detail in my background, because I'm here by myself. I don't have Chris with me, unfortunately. But I mentioned a few other things. But some of the other things that I do is I'm a First Lego League coach, so I'm also very active. We have like weekly meetings. We're taking a break now before the new season begins. But once it begins, they're going to be meeting regularly. I'm also active in scouting. So I know I had this conversation with somebody a little bit earlier, so I apologize for the redundancy. But as an assistant scoutmaster, I'm also a merit badge counselor in 4 technical disciplines within the merit badge, but also chess and public speaking. I'm also den leader and an assistant cub master, wood badge trained. If you don't know what that is, it's the highest level of adult leadership training that the Boy Scouts of America has to offer. So I just completed that this year. I am a camp director for Cub Scouts, which is a fun way for them to get enrichment in different activities, but we have about 160 to 170 scouts that participate for 3 days, and then on the last day we have about 500 people as a family picnic. I'm active in the STEM steering committees within our council, and again, if you want to reach me in addition to Twitter, I'm available on Facebook and LinkedIn. So the next part here is a chant, so I'm going to need all of you to participate in your deepest and loudest voices so it sounds like the room is filled. USB, USB, USB. Thank you. So who's never heard of STEM? Exactly. Everybody nowadays has heard of STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, but most people really kind of don't know where it's come from or how did it suddenly become so popular. It's a little bit of background information on that. So in 1997, the National Science Foundation wanted to begin providing funding to educators and education institutions to educate their educators more in the areas of science, technology, engineering, and math, or I will just say STEM going forward. And that was kind of where it springboarded. It was teach the educators and then they'll teach downward. And this was not just at like the high school level, it was also at the college level all the way down to middle school eventually. But in 2010, somebody said, yeah, STEM is nice, but something's missing. Art. So, instead of calling it STEM, let's call it STEAM. And it's actually a term that's used somewhat nowadays, and there's the website STEAM-not-STEM. So you can get some information. And if you believe that art is an important discipline that we should be spending money on to educate the kids, then you're somebody in this camp. But if not, then, there's nothing wrong with art, but for example, what I do with kids is more STEM focused. And then in 2014, somebody named Rob Furman wrote an article for the Huffington Post, and he titled it, "STEM Needs to Be Updated to STREAM," which I think maybe the alternative title should have been STEAM Needs to Be Updated to STREAM. But that includes reading. So now there's it's being implied that we're falling behind globally in reading as well as art and science, technology, engineering, and math. So kind of really like the initiative is to catch up. So here's some other kind of points that people were making. There's the link to the article if you want to read it yourself. It's old news, but some people still have not heard of it. So in addition to what the NSF is doing, Barack Obama back in the early 2010 said, we need to do more of STEM type of activities. We need to fund it more. So he made $250 million available for training. Now, it might seem like, well, wait, didn't this get started in 1997? Why is it like 13 years later, the current president's like adding money to this program? It's additional funds. He kind of really wanted to give it more momentum. And then also, while addressing the Department of Education, he made this very interesting statement, which you could see there on ed.gov/STEM, the full article, but I'll read the bolded part in case you can't see that. It, meaning science, is an approach to the world, a critical way to understand and explore and engage with the world, and then have the capacity to change that world. Sounds familiar? Where are we at? What kind of conference? So how did Chris and I come up with this idea? Again, we were in a group chat, and then we kind of went private, and I don't know if you could see that, but it's just like, we were just kind of talking about it. It was like, I'm giving your idea for STEM some more thought, and we're like, okay, we want to introduce this other discipline, and it was kind of like, well, how do we want to pronounce it? Where did you want to put it? We're going back and forth like, STEM, or more like you're clearing your throat, STEM. Or like, if you haven't figured it out, I'm Jewish, maybe with the Jewish kind of sound, like STEM. But that would be really hard to pronounce. And then one we was like, how about METHS? Oh, no. We don't want to do that one. So it just kind of, one of those things, you kind of riff on it, and we came up with this idea, and then let's just like put together a presentation, and that's where Make STEM Great Again came from. So what is STEM, or STEM with an H, or however you want to say it? Present to you. It's the hacking part. I'm sure you might have figured this out. So we wanted to give it a nice like icon or a logo, and when you do some searches on like a hacker image or logo, what do you come up with? Right, the glider. So the glider's in there, it's indicated in red, in addition to all the other disciplines are with their symbols, which could be changed depending on who's making them for you, but this is STEM. Why do we need this? Why do we want to do this? Well, there's a lot of reasons. Hacking seems to be like one of like the new cool things to do again for people. Kids want to call themselves a hacker because it sounds cool, makes them look smart, makes them look really knowledgeable about computers. In fact, hacking does not necessarily only include computers. And then we're going to cover some case studies, and then we're going to talk about the challenges, because there are some. So who in this room began as like a computer hobbyist? You can just raise your hand. Who's like still is a computer hobbyist? I know I am. No? You guys kind of just woke up one day and became a computer professional or InfoSec? Usually you kind of start off playing around with what you have available to you. Here's like a really old computer. It looks like it might be a Packard Bell, if you guys remember that company. I know I do. And then you kind of tinker around, you start to understand things, you read a few manuals, but you're like, I need more information. My public library doesn't have everything I really want to know about this machine. So you go and discover this thing called a BBS. You remember that? bulletin board system. And there's some web page bulletin board systems, and then you start to find things you didn't know you were going to find, like the Anarchist Cookbook. But then you start to find a lot of low-level knowledge, really deep information about the systems, and then you kind of start to wonder, like, what if you make some small changes here and there? What if you turn things around, turn them upside down, kind of like what Barack Obama was saying, right? Just making changes to their world, or in that case, the system, which could be your world. But then there's some folks who decide to make it as a career. So here's the head of Rapid7 now, Kevin Mandia, came from Mandiant, and there he is on his throne. Chris included that because he works for Rapid7, so he thought it'd be funny to put that in there as a little kind of a troll image. But it's true. You can start as a hobbyist and then turn this into a really good career. I know it worked for me. I know some other people that they started there. This guy, you guys know who this is? Eric Burgess, yep. I tried to find a picture of Rob. I even DM'd Eric. I go, do you have any pictures of Rob? Anything funny? He goes, nope, I have nothing. I looked up his Twitter handle, nothing. It is barren. It is a wasteland of media. So I couldn't include Rob, but here's a lovely picture of Eric. So now the media. You guys are familiar with the media, right, when it comes to hacking? So if you remember the derivation of the term hacking or to hack, it really kind of came from a model railroad club. And I've read some things that said it was somewhere either in Penn State, or I've read that it's MIT. It depends on who's editing the Wikipedia page, I guess, that day. But the fact of the matter is, it was something where a group of enthusiasts wanted to take what they had, what they bought from the store, and make it better. And what they would do is they would literally hack them in half and add more engines so they could either go from 0 to whatever speed faster or pull heavier loads. And that's really where the term hacking came from, because that's what they were doing. And it was pretty repetitious, because they'd have to keep doing it over and over again. Once you destroyed one train, you'd have to go get another one to make it work. So, and that's really what it meant. It was like a beautiful, pure term that just meant things like not accepting things as they're given to you and wanting to make it better, innovation. And then these guys came along. I don't know if you can read that, but the media took the term, as you know, and made it mean something like cyber criminal. And there was this really long period, and still today, it's true. When you say hacker, right away, like, ooh, you're a criminal, you're a crook. So I guess everybody here is a crook, and we should all be incarcerated because we like to make things better. We don't accept things as they are, and if we find a vulnerability and we responsibly disclose that vulnerability, we expect the manufacturer to fix it. IoT. So here, if you can't read the title, it says, hackers can turn your home computer into a bomb and blow your family to smithereens. Who's ever done that? Iron Geek, have you ever done that? Maybe you've tried? Okay. No, you can't do that unless you have physical access to the device and you slap some explosives to it. And now it's a bomb, but maybe some batteries have ignited. That's a little different, but it's not somebody doing that intentionally. That was just some chemistry fail. But it's completely out of control. And then this is another one that Chris found. These people were hacking a dam, and the title was "Damn Hackers," which was kind of cute. So yeah, this is a real problem, right? With ICS and SCADA networks that are under attack, whether by nation-state threat actors, curious people, or whoever has the motivation or has been paid to do it. And then there's also the improvement upon the media, where they actually are kind of depicting what we do professionally in a much better light. I don't know if you guys are watching Mr. Robot. If you're not, I highly recommend it. The story's pretty good, and it's very enjoyable, but when you go in there and you see them in command line, running Metasploit, doing social engineering attack, being hacktivists, it's very real world. It feels very familiar. Or attacking a phone. I mean, they do cut things down a little bit because you're watching a 1-hour show, and if you're going to take 15 minutes to replace the ROM or the firmware on an Android device, you don't want to watch somebody sit there for 15 minutes with a progress bar. That doesn't work on television. So they do speed things up a little bit for the sake of the story, but definitely an improvement compared to other movies like The Net, or something where it just makes things just seem so ridiculous. I mean, the movie Hackers, great, it's inspirational, but it's a farce. Mr. Robot's very good. Some other things in the media as well. Looking at CSO Online, they're saying that 0% cybersecurity unemployment, there's 1 million jobs that are unfilled. So 0% unemployment, I think, is a bit of a stretch, because I do know some people looking for work in our industry. Some of them are here today, and I know some of them are very, very skilled and knowledgeable. Bit of a stretch, but for us to try to understand 1 million vacant jobs in our industry, I don't think we can actually comprehend it. You could say you can, but to think about how many people that is, and what the data that's missing there, at least from when I saw this, is that just the U.S. or is that global? Global, I can okay, that makes sense. But it might mean in the U.S. And then, I don't know if you guys heard of Swag, Speak with a Geek. They were at B-Sides Las Vegas last year interviewing people saying, hey, how are we going to solve this problem? We've got 1 million vacant positions showing up, and they were saying it was like 2020. What are we going to start doing now? And some of the respondents, and it's a good video, there's the bit.ly for it, some of them were just like, I don't know. It's a pretty fair answer, because that's a tough problem to solve. How do you train people to be proficient enough that quickly? They might be okay at that point, especially coming out of school. Maybe there's some programs going on in their school, like CCDC, Cyber Patriot, Gen Cyber, where they're getting training when they're younger, but are they really ready? Other people said some things that seemed a bit fantastic and comical, and one other person took it from a different point of view, where it's more of, who's that guy? Of a long game, where if you start to educate at a younger age, we might not solve the problem by 2020, but we might solve the bigger problem going forward. And it might be 2025, maybe it's 2030, but we have to start sometime. We can't wait. Sometimes I want to do things and it just doesn't seem like it's the best time. You know when's the best time? Now. Don't wait. Don't put it off. Take the vacation, take the online training, update the resume, whatever you've been wanting to do, get a new job. Now is always the best time. Also in education, if any of you folks have had a lot of interaction with young kids, even the teenagers, because as you get older, your brain changes, but especially the younger kids, they tend to be like natural hackers. It's kind of like in the human DNA to want to do these things. Even some of the most quietest and shy, maybe they're not outwardly expressing how they feel, but inside they're processing it. So it's the question of why. The 2-year-old, I have 3 kids, they're 7, 9, and 5, and I remember all of them about 2 or 3 years old. It was, why? Because they want to understand the world around them and the universe. And we're trying to do that as adults, so I don't blame them. But it's actually very incessant or insistent, or either one of those words might work. Just that they don't quit. It just drives you batty. But you don't want to stifle that. You kind of want to be encouraging. So you push it down and you just help them along and understand the world. The other interesting one is their interaction with authority. They typically, especially if you're a parent, they don't always take you for what your current request or orders or suggestions might be. One of them, I remember, one of my kids, he, it was sorry, I just got a mental block there, but he was asking about being able to do something. Don't remember exactly what it was, it doesn't matter. And then just saying, okay, well, maybe we'll do this later. No, I want to do it now. Or they just don't really take these things at face value when you give it to them. They really want to understand it, and they're going to question you or call you out on it. Or if you've ever worked in any kind of youth program, especially like younger kids, they're always going to be pushing your boundaries. And then persistence I've mentioned already. And they're very, very good innovators. You could just watch them sit there with whatever it might be, Lincoln Logs, or magnet tiles these days, or Legos, or whatever. They're going to sit there and take that toy and want to change it. Like, some kids have changed, like, Nerf guns and made them into, like, a rapid-fire Nerf gun. They just literally take them apart, they add things to it, put it back together, and it's better than what you can buy in the store. Cool stuff. Or social engineering. We talk about doing some social engineering. Hey, you know, when I checked into the hotel, I got a free upgrade. I social engineered that person at the front desk. I say, no. Oh, that's louder than I thought. Big X on that one. You might have convinced them, and they probably would have done it, but that's not like the core of what social engineering is. My kids kind of do it a little bit. One example, hey, I want to go ride my bike with my friend around the park. Okay, did you ask your mom? No, go ask your mom. Comes back, can I go ride my bike around the park? Did you ask your mom? Yeah, she said to ask you. Okay, blah, 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 they go or they don't go. Some other time in the future, same question, or hey, I want to play video games. All right, did you ask your mom? Yeah, I asked her already, and she said to ask you. All right, well, you got like 30 minutes, we got to go do something. Meanwhile, they never asked her. Why are they playing video games? Well, they said it was up to me. No, I didn't. So they try to work the system, and that's a very simple one. My older son, during a CTF in Milwaukee, he actually upped his game a bit. So this one I hope you enjoy. I love it. Whenever he's done these CTFs at Hack for Kids, he's always coming up to me and asking me questions like, hey, you know, I'm looking at this, and is that like an MD5 hash? Or is that just regular hex that I need to convert? I'm like, I don't know. Did you try it? I don't give him any clues whatsoever. Make him struggle through it. You know, fail, 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 success. That's kind of the methodology of hacking. Well, in Milwaukee, when he tried to ask me a question about something, and I said, well, I don't know. What did you do to test it? He walked away, and then throughout the day, other kids are asking me questions. And then when it's over, I noticed that he was sitting with a slightly older kid who asked me a few questions during the event. And I said, oh, good, he made a friend and everything. And then he told me later, he goes, you know that kid that was sitting with me? Yeah. He goes, I gave him a couple flags, so he would ask you questions from me. I was like, damn, I wasn't ready for that. And he won that CTF. So he had the incentive, the motivation, and the know-how. And to me, that was a better social engineering type of methodology. Very successful. Here's another great one. Like, kids might start at about 3rd grade, but even younger. So here's this kid, I think his name is pronounced Christopher. It's like Christopher with a K, but I think it's Christopher. And he's 5 years old, and this was from, I think it was like a year or two, 2014, so he's a little older now. And when you watch the video, if you can find the video, just type in, what's the guy's name? Doug Green from CNN, 5-year-old hacks Xbox. Watch the video. I was going to play it for you guys, but they make us sit through like 30-second ad, and I just didn't want to do that to a group of people. I don't want it done to me, so why would I do that to you? So when you watch this video, it's about a minute or so. It's adorable. The dad works in information security. His son likes to play with the Xbox along with dad, and dad wasn't around, and he wanted to get into the Xbox. So what does he start doing? He starts spamming the controller. He was actually fuzzing the Xbox login prompt. And he noticed when he keeps hitting Y, which is the space bar, and kind of populate it and then hit enter, it was a buffer overflow when he got in and was able to play things like Call of Duty and some other, like teen and mature rated games. And what's really, really cool, I just got chills, really cool, Microsoft gave him security researcher creds for finding the vuln. So when you look at the patch, his name is in there. And the kid's like, I'm going to be famous. Very cute. I have another one for you. This one's a little more closer to home.
1, 4, 9, 2. Okay. I 1, 4, 9, 2.
Is it okay to share your password with people?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's okay to share your password with people. You guys have users like that? I do too at home. So that was little Benny the Destroyer a couple years ago. Even to this day, he could read a little better, but he didn't speak a lot. But every time he typed in the passcode to unlock his tablet, he always said it out loud. It took a year to get him to stop, and then even change it. And now it's really cool, is he won't even tell my wife the passcode, because it's a secret. So just the two of us have it. But the message there is like, he's really young, and even though he doesn't really know like numbers as numbers are, he recognizes 0 through 9. He remembered the pattern that it had to be typed in, and his motivation was to watch kid videos or play a game. So with that incentive, he did what he had to do to get past this hurdle, or this technological hurdle. Now, there's also another kind of underlying message there. There's this whole new crop of users who could barely have any like academic skills. Like, remember when you needed to know like things like reading to use a computer, and you needed to have other kinds of skills like patience? That's not even requirements anymore. So there's like maybe around maybe 14, 15 months old set of users. They don't know anything about internet safety or protecting themselves. Who knows what that tablet's used for? That one, just him. But if it's a parent's phone or tablet that's used for work, and if there's not anything on there to protect the corporate data, it's now exposed. Maybe the young kid learns how to install an app. Maybe they're able to install from like unknown third-party sources. And now that device is infected without any kind of mobile threat protection or app reputation service. Data is being exfiltrated because somebody wants to watch a video. And they're not expected to understand this, but the adults are, the parents are. So that's another new problem to be solved. So this is one of Chris's use cases. His son, when he was 9, I guess he's about 10 now, learned how to play or use MIT Scratch. Who's familiar with Scratch? It's pretty cool stuff if you know young kids that are interested in programming, or you want to kind of introduce them to programming. Think of Scratch as kind of like Legos for programmers, where there's different colored blocks that kind of snap together. You can't put things together that don't work, and then they can go and change the data values, and then they can make things more interesting. So Chris's son wanted to make a Pong game, and you could see the device he was running it off of. So he makes this Pong game, and one of the things he wanted to do is there's like a conditional. So if there's a hit, do something when like player 1, change the color to something random. So every time player 1 hits it, the color changes. And then player 2, same thing. And then also change the color of the ball. He had some other ones in there where it makes it bigger. So you've got like this psychedelic thing going on. And with the sounds beeping, it drove Chris's wife insane. Well, I don't want to say insane, but it made her very unhappy for a little while. You can only imagine the dee-dee-dee-dee-dee kind of sounds that were going on. Some other fun thing, and this is the innovation part that I'm talking about. You know, build a game or build a tool or something, and then you want to change it. You want to make it a little different, a little more fun. Troll mom. So the other thing that he did is, if player 1 got a goal, then the paddle size for player 1 would get smaller, making it harder and harder. He would be player 2, making it harder and harder and harder for them to hit the balls that came back. So another way to make something that is pretty kind of straightforward. Pong is like one of the oldest video games, but get an unfair advantage. Now, being like aware of kids about that age, like 9, middle school, or actually that's still elementary. What do you think Chris's son named this game? You just shout it out. I know something came to mind. Extreme Pong? Something else? No? How about that? And honestly, are we any better? No. So there's a very fun, cute example of kids' innovation and learning technology. There's also several different types of organizations out there. I mentioned one earlier, Hack for Kids. You guys heard about us earlier during the opening. But then there's also Roots, or Roots Asylum, formerly known as DEF CON Kids. You guys heard of DEF CON Kids? It's pretty cool, right? Some people are like, why are you going to bring kids to Vegas to DEF CON? Well, they're in this security area. You know, parent or adults have to be accompanied with a kid. There's a kid that has to be with that adult all the time. So they've taken some very good security measures to keep the kids safe. But it's an open activity. There's talks going on. I volunteered there last year, helped out with soldering. Very cool stuff. And part of what Roots does was the inspiration for Hack for Kids. There's other things like Cyber Boot Camp, Gen Cyber. Have you guys heard of this? This is a program from National Science Foundation where they're providing grants to education facilities. So if you know, like college level EDU, they're going to provide a grant to organize a camp that could be a week long or something, either for middle schoolers up to kids going into 12th grade and even the educators. So this is a great use of funding to promote specifically cybersecurity, not even STEM. It's just we have that gap of 1 million people that need to fill these jobs either today or in a few years. So this is one of the initiatives they've taken to solve that problem. There's also Kids Hack Day, First Lego League. I mentioned earlier, I'm a Lego League coach, which is great. It's a fun program, just specifically with robotics and programming and project management and stuff. Interrupt, you guys heard of Interrupt? That one I think is near Chris in Mississippi. And then Cyber Patriot, middle schooler, high schooler program, very cool. I know some people that are Cyber Patriot coaches, and hats off to them for getting it started. I did not have success the first time I've tried. That doesn't mean I'm going to give up. I focused on FLL for a while and some other things. But if you are thinking about being a coach for Cyber Patriot, my advice that I give to you, which came from another coach, is rather than approaching the school directly, talk to the parents. Find out parents who are interested in, maybe have some kind of meeting in the library. Find out who's interested, fill out a petition, get their contact information, present it to the leaders of the school district and say, this is an interest in your area. I'd like to be a coach and help you keep costs down as well as not have to tax or add additional pressure to your current educators. I'm here to help and train them. That's what you want to do. Otherwise, it might be a bit more difficult to kind of get that program started in your area. So you heard of Hack for Kids. I have a couple stories for you. They're very, well, I'll let you decide. So there's Bob, and we met Bob at Circle City Con in Indianapolis. We had an area, kind of like what we're going to have tomorrow here at NolaCon, but Bob, his dad came in, dropped him off, so his dad could go to talks and trainings. I think it was a training specifically in this case, and that's fine, because we had the room pretty much penned off, like the kids can't leave without their parent. So Bob was there, and I'm like, well, we got this and this and this. What do you want? He was like, I don't know, crypto corner? What is that? And we're teaching the kids about hashing, encoding, and encryption. So Bob goes there, and he's never done any of this stuff before. So, the CTF started, and when you're active or participating in the CTF, there's a lot of encoding. There's a lot of easy encryption, right? So this is something that we added to our program in order to educate these kids, because it's very important. So Bob sat down with one of our admins and starting to learn about how to decode binary manually and hexadecimal manually and base 64 manually and so on and so forth. We had about 9 challenges, and he was determined to get through all of them. He could care less about anything else that was going on. Even when we took a break for lunch and we came back, he was standing in front of our door. We locked it, of course, waiting. I was like, how long did you wait? He's like, I don't know, 20 minutes or so. The kid was so passionate about math and how it relates to computers that he just stood there and waited for us. So obviously, apologize if it felt bad, but he went right in there and kept going to work on number crunching. So he enjoyed it. And had like, oh, this was great. I never knew I love this kind of stuff. Awesome. So he emailed his dad. I had his dad's email because he emailed me before the event asking me some questions. And I said, hey, Bob's dad, by the way, that's not his real name. Bob's dad, what did Bob tell you about his experience? Oh, typically, hey, what'd you learn? Nothing. Did you have fun? Yeah, it was fun. And that was kind of it. If you're a parent, this is the kind of communication you have with your kids. Well, went to typing. Big email to Bob's dad, letting him know how much he impressed us. your son is very much interested in this type of mathematics. You really want to explore this with him, so on and so forth. And of course, Bob's dad replied, I had no idea this was a passion of his. So kind of one of the real nice things in this story is that not only did Bob realize something about himself he didn't know he had an interest in, which is something that's important for our industry, but his own parent didn't know. And who knows their kids better than their parents? Probably their best friend. But now his parent can explore that and nurture that and go forward and give him like the learning opportunities that he needs. So he was thrilled to hear that we gave him that kind of feedback and experience. And then there's Alice. So met Alice at, and by the way, Bob went from the Circle City Con Hack for Kids, and then he wanted to go to the one in Chicago, which was a few weeks later, and it was, of course, his dad was like, are you going to have new challenges? Like, yep, we're going to make some just for him. So we did things like Orbesh and Braille and other stuff. So we didn't want him to show up and go, did this already. No, he went there and he was engaged. So on to Alice. Met Alice in Detroit a couple years ago in 2015. She was 12 years old. So Alice's story begins with her when she's born into a family of parents with some chemical addictions. One, if I remember correctly, was an alcoholic. The other one was an addict, drug addict. I don't know which is which, but it doesn't matter. But Alice's foster mother was telling me about her. And they adopted her, I think she was about 9 or so. And she maybe a little younger. And she was somebody, so when you think of like somebody being born into a family with parents that have these kinds of addictions, they tend to be like more inwardly focused as well as like their next fix. So they don't tend to take the best care of their kids. So Alice didn't have things like that other kids get to take advantage of, like 3 meals a day, clothes that fit properly, shoes that weren't crushing her feet, and going to school regularly. So she didn't have all those things. So when she went into this new family of people who were into technology, like us, they wanted to expose her to it, but they knew they had to wait. And about the age of 12, she was starting to show some interest. So they said, okay, we're going to go to B-Sides Detroit, where they're doing this Hack for Kids thing. We don't know what it is, but it sounds like it might be fun. And she goes there, and she's a nice girl, a little timid and everything, but just kind of let them go and do their thing. Well, one of the areas that we had that year was a SumoBot table. So we had some local people come in with their tech, and they teach the kids more about the building part and a little bit of the programming. So she participated in the SumoBot competition. She was the second kid to go. Well, she beat the first kid with her robot and design, and then there was 10 more after her. She beat them all, which was pretty astounding considering she's never done this before. This was something very new to her. And one of the prizes that we had was a $25 gift card for whoever took the SumoBot competition first place. Well, imagine, again, understanding Alice's background, now having $25 of kind of free spending money. That's a big deal. So she was thrilled, like in tears. But then she participated in the CTF. So we had some hashing and encoding and some simple crypto challenges for her. Her foster mother was there sitting with her, and I would just observe people. And one of the things that we do with Hack for Kids is whenever we see kids getting stuck, we don't really want to have them like kind of push them into the answer by giving it to them. You want to kind of steer them. But the first thing you should always begin with is, do you want time or coaching? And that's something that you guys can take away with today. A lot of the times, the kids want more time. And maybe sometimes they're going to say they want some coaching. All right? And that was one of the things I suggested, and that's what she was doing. So whenever Alice got stuck, her mom was helping her in the right direction. So she got almost all of the crypto challenges that we had to offer in the CTF. We had some social engineering. She did well with those. Of the lockpick village, we had up to 6 pins. She got up to 5, so she picked all those locks, and she got all those points, which was pretty cool. And I think we even had handcuffs, and she got out of those. We also had these really cool electronic badges last year. We had 3 different kinds. And the white one well, they all had some kind of message that scrolled by and read, but the white one she was able to decode, which was pretty cool. And I think that one was Braille. So she was able to figure that out, which was really cool. So we had, I don't know, a dozen or more kids that year. Yeah, it was about a dozen in Detroit, and all of them pretty much participated to some degree in the CTF. But Alice's interest in technology and overcoming her fear and the complexity and I don't know how to do this, she didn't give up. She was very persistent, which goes back to what I was saying before about how kids are great hackers. They're very persistent. So not only did she win the SumoBot contest, she tied for first place in the CTF, which, again, is outstanding. And one of the prizes that we had was a Kana kit, so and a Minecraft server, a virtual Minecraft server. So she gets to choose first, ladies first, and she picked the Kana kit, which was actually cool because now she has her own little computer, which was great. So it was a great day for her, but again, going back to these stories, like these kids are having revelations about themselves as well as their parents are. And that's very valuable to continue to foster the new crop of future hackers. You know, just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do it in the wrong way. You know, you can use the Spider-Man quote, great power comes great responsibility. I think that's a little overused. I hear it a lot, but it's still the same idea. We need to engage students more. We need to engage them as mentors. And then as we see them mature, they need to learn how to become mentors. So Hack for Kids Chicago, this is our first year where we're actually having kids who came a couple years before that want to be mentors. One of them I think is 16. And then we have some others who are like 11, and another one I think is 12. They want to be mentors. So we have 4 child mentors this year, which to me is like, win, because that little baby. Because now the kids they're kind of getting to the point where we've been wanting them to be from the beginning, but we had to be patient and persistent, and they want to teach each other. If you've ever done anything where you're having kids learn, we can lecture to them, and they'll listen most of the time, but when it's another kid teaching them, they make a bigger impact. It resounds better with them. So that's great. So with leadership, mentorship begets leadership. Never quitting is important. Different kinds of things, like we could talk about the activity stations. I want to move on to some other stuff, but we offer a wide range of things, anything from programming to hardware hacking to crypto and the whatnot. CTFs, we know there's one that started here at NolaCon, but you could do these too, or if you know some kids that want to do CTF, like my kids, well, I should say at least my older son loves doing CTFs. And he's always looking for more, so I forgot the actual month. It was sometime last year or early this year. The Never LAN CTF, it's great. I know adults do it too. I kept in touch with them. I was a DM of like, how do you know if my kid won? He's like, well, we got to weed out all the adults first. Because adults go in there because they're fun challenges. So it's a great way. I'll wait for you guys to take a quick pick. And then whatever conference you're going to, bring your kids. I bring my kids to conferences, and they do the CTFs, and they have a great time. I'll wait for that gentleman over there. You're good. Some other things that we've done, which was a little controversial from some people's standpoint, is we put together a DEF CON scholarship. So it was really aimed at juniors and seniors in high school. We had some pretty good response of really high quality graduating seniors. One of them, Justin, it's like the perfect teenager resume. He's based in Missouri, which I don't know if that's the beginning is the best perfect part, but it could be anywhere. But just so you know, he's based in Missouri, and he was on the Cyber Patriot team for 3 years in a row. So the first year, you're getting your sea legs. The second year, you're getting better and you're getting proficient. But this year, or should I say last year, he was the team captain. The second year, his team got first in state. Last year, his team got first in nationals. So if you look at any of the promotional video, he's in there. And I didn't know. We just put out this blind application, and he replied, and it's great. He's also an Eagle Scout. He's a member of his band. And when I contacted his mom and said, okay, I received an application from your son, he was selected by the review committee, I need to ask you some questions. And one of them was about getting like a chaperone to go. And she's like, I'm not sending a chaperone with my son. I trust him. I know he'll be fine, even if it's Vegas. You're going to keep in touch with him, right? Yep, every day I'll check in on him. Good enough for me. This kid, and when I met him, he wasn't like a super geek. He was actually pretty cool to hang around with. He was really like super excited when he met different people, that he watched their videos at cons and stuff, or saw their persona online. So these are the kinds of things we're trying to do to expose kids to things that we enjoy doing, but with responsibility. We got to keep working to change the perception of what a hacker is, right? If somebody says hackers are criminals, it's your responsibility, being in this community, to politely correct them. Show gracious professionalism, and let them know. It's a term that we don't use anymore. It's not cyber criminal. We're here to innovate. We're here to protect everyone. Some other quick challenges. I usually like to do this stuff. I'm going to give you another, in the next slide you get more information on it, but it's hard to reach out to rural areas. So if there's anybody in a very rural area, there's a link for ruraltechfund.org to help fund programs for people who are not near like a big city like New Orleans. And then I also do this part, as we're kind of alluding to. I like to go and get a state map, and I like to do some search on like hacker spaces, maker spaces. So anyone who's local, it's like, oh, I want to do this stuff. Where do I begin? Kind of give you a little information. Well, the first thing I did is I found a wiki, and of that list of all of them there, only one of them had a functional website. So these things crop up, 2011, they die off 2013. They're looking for you as much as you're looking for them. You got to go. You got to reach out. You got to let them know that you're interested, because if they're not getting people showing up, they're not going to continue doing it. Running a makerspace or hackerspace, it's not free. But there's still one on, I don't remember how to say the street name, but Tchoop something or other. Tchop, thank you. Thank you. So it's tchopblock.com is their website. And then the funding, NSF, they're a great supporter of some of these things. But if you start it properly, you might be able to become a 501c3. And then there's grants to help support the hacker or makerspace. Metrics are a problem. I'm running out of time, so I'm going to skip past this. It's very hard to measure the success that you might be having, but do your best. Usually following up and having inquiries or conversations with people, great way to do it. Can't be done without you. You need to participate. You need to raise your hand. You need to let people know that you're interested. And in conclusion, I'm going to skip this. Like all good hacker, we need to have like a song. So drink all the Kool-Aid and hack all the things. Oh yeah. So, there he's growing. There's Dave. So, vote for STEM with an H, if that's how you want to say it. So whenever you're going to do like a hashtag STEM, remember to put that H in there before the M. Again, this was the Make STEM Great Again by Dave and me and Chris Sistrunk. And if we